stars are in light, though we burn, we would know.
Hey everyone, how are you? I'm so excited about today. This is the first time that we've had more than one guest on the Improving Sales Performance livecast. So this is going to be new and exciting, and I think the conversation is going to be something that everyone's really going to enjoy. I'll make introductions here in a second, but as people are still coming in and joining in, feel free to ask us questions in the comments or in the comment box, or leave comments if you'd like. And why don't we do a quick check-in? Let's see where everyone is today. It's always fun. I know for on this side of the equation, it's interesting to see where everyone is and who's all on. And it looks like we got about 20 or 25 people on right now, so that's great. And people keep coming in. And while you guys are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and make some introductions. So up first, everyone on the call, everyone on the show, I guess that's the way to say it, works at CSS. So this is kind of like our internal staff meeting. You guys get to peek in and hear what we talk about when we all hang out together. So to I think it's the same. Right there is Kurt Sima. He's a vice president, senior consultant, and he's actually been with CSS for about 16 years. And then diagonal from me is Stephanie Downs. She's a partner at CSS and a vice president, senior consultant. She's been with the company 13 years. And then Jim Hopes, right below me, is a managing partner here at the Center for Sales Strategy and has been with the company 28 years. And we were, before we started coming on live, we were having a conversation about the years of combined management experience between all of us, and it's all the years. It adds up to be like 1 million years between all of us. So we're not going to disclose the exact amount, but it's a lot. All right, so let's just jump in. We're going to spend about 25 minutes, and we got a bunch of topics to cover. And again, this isn't going to be a Q&A as much as it's a topic. Let's discuss. So most of our clients, almost all of our clients, are in some form of a work from home these days. We're a work from home company and have been for 38 years. What are some of your best practices? Kurt, Stephanie, Jim, best practices of working from home?
Stay in a structure as much as possible.
I'll start out. I like to.
You're good.
Okay. Sorry about that, Steph. I'm going to step on you.
I
like to have a few different spaces. Yeah, I like to have a few different spaces in my house. I have an office, but I also pick some different spaces, and I move around a little bit. It's just kind of my, this is the way I like to do it. A few years ago, we had a consultant come and talk to our team, and she talked about disengaging your brain a few times throughout the day. So it's okay to take a 15 or 20 minute, take a walk, just go away from what you're doing and do something else. She even said, hey, take a nap. So, I think they said Einstein used to take a nap every day. So, disengage your brain a few times a day. It just helps you be more productive. It's something else.
Yeah.
Matt, let me add to that too. Part of it is we're adjusting to working from home. For many people, it's the first time they've ever done that. And when you're at home, you have a different paradigm, a different mindset about how things should be. So one thing I would say to my clients all the time, if you're working from home, remember you are working from home. And so I've heard people say, I don't think I want to do a video call because, then I have to get dressed up or I have to, take a shower or whatever the case may be. If you weren't working from home and you were going into the office and you were calling on clients, would you have taken a shower? Would you have put on regular clothes? And so because you're working in your home environment doesn't mean that you should not be working. You should be working. Now, there's so many advantages to working from home, but that's part of the mindset. If the client is worth talking to or you're in a staff meeting, it's worth looking presentable because you would have done that if you're all in the office together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know a lot of
reminds
people.
me.
Yeah, go ahead, Steph.
No, it just reminds me of the blog that you wrote about staying sales ready. It's exactly what Jim's describing.
Yeah, when we used to talk about work from home like a year ago, when people would ask us about work from home, I think the fear that a lot of sales leaders had was that people wouldn't work if they worked from home. And I always say, I don't ever worry about people not working when they're home. I actually worry about people working too much, right? Because you're only like 5 seconds away from your office when you work from home. And so you end up starting your day earlier, ending your day later, responding to emails late at night. I worry more about not too much work, but that goes to hiring the right people, right? Right. So it's a little different. Okay, so let's move on to another subject. Work from home was kind of just the appetizer to get us going. How do you guys think managers ought to be using, and salespeople ought to be using video these days to help them manage and sell? What are some things you're observing that you would consider to be really, really good? Mm-hmm. Who wants to start?
Well, I will. For sellers specifically, for those that are using it as they're trying to connect with prospects, for the sellers that I've worked with, they seem to be getting appointments faster than they did before. So it's helping get appointments. I would use it as a recap after they've had a meeting. I think it's really good. I've done that with clients a number of times. We've had some interaction and I've done just a 60-second video to recap and send it. So I would encourage people to do that. And I think it just adds a human element to it, right? Because we don't get that when we're not face-to-face, where it's harder to get that, I should say. So I would highly encourage salespeople using it as they're trying to connect with prospects or as they're just having ongoing dialogue, recapping or whatever that is.
Yes, yeah. Steph, can I hit you on that for a minute? So just imagine it's this time last year, it's December 10th, 2019. And we're all in this conversation. We're talking about ways to increase productivity. And I said to the group, hey, you know what? Here's an idea. Instead of calling on your client and going to see them at the office, a formal kind of process, why don't you go see them at home? Why don't you just visit their house? You can show up at the front door and they'll let you in and you can sit together in the kitchen or in the den or who knows, a spare bedroom or the basement, wherever they have a little office set up. You might have a chance to see their kids in the background or maybe meet them. And the family pet will be part of the process. If I would have said that a year ago, that's what you should do with your clients, people would have said, you are crazy. This guy lost his mind. But guess what? That's what we've been doing for the last 6 months. As much as we hate everything that's happened in 2020 from the pandemic, this is one of the biggest opportunities that has ever emerged. And so we need to get really comfortable with video. I mean, you are inside of somebody's house. They've invited you in. They never would have done that in the past.
Yeah. Jim, with each virtual meeting, I tell managers and sellers, it's like you get a bonus hour. Because if you think about it, and it might even vary with some of the bigger markets like Dallas or something, but typically it's a half hour to drive to the meeting. And then 5 or 10 minutes of BSing with the receptionist or somebody else. And then 30 some minutes, maybe 45 in the meeting, then a half hour back. just with the commute time, you're getting an hour bonus. So what if you think about that, if you got an hour bonus with every interaction you had with a client, right? Because you can do a virtual needs analysis, you can do a virtual proposal presentation. What could you do with that extra bonus hour, right? And what if you just got an extra hour every day? That's 5 extra hours a week. What if you make 5 more calls in a week? That starts to add up, and it's real time. It's real time.
Yeah, I mean, it just simple math. I mean, an extra 5 hours is more than 10% more time per week just in a 40-hour work week. It really adds up. I mean, I don't know how many sales appointments someone should have in a day. That's a topic for a whole nother. We could do an hour. We could do a day on that topic. But whatever it is, you can do a lot more when you're doing them virtually. And I would argue that they're way more effective. I think that there's a lot of distractions that happen when you're in person, especially if it's a first-time appointment, where if you're locked in on a screen and you know you have someone for 20 or 30 minutes, a lot of really good stuff can get done. All right, so let's move from salespeople to sales managers. What about managing a remote sales team?
Well, I think one thing is you use your webcam. I talk to managers periodically, and they're doing sales meetings, and well, you do it over the phone. It's like, come on, use your webcam. Look at them, let them see you. It's so use your webcam. Sounds pretty basic, right? The other thing is embrace things like Kahoot and some ways that you can teach sellers and do virtual training sessions. Kahoot's it's a great app. It's easy to use. Even a guy like me can figure out how to use Kahoot. I've started doing it on my virtual training sessions with clients, and it's changed the whole tone and the value of training. And then the other thing is don't eliminate training, because you might think, well, since we're not in the office, we're not getting together. Training's not going to be as effective. Don't eliminate training. You have to figure out how to do it. And there's a lot of great ways and easy ways to do it virtually.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Stephanie.
To add to that, Kurt, I think a lot of people, because it's so different, the environment that we're in, we're busier, we're back to back on Zoom calls or Teams meetings or whatever it is. It's so back to back that we forget that we still need to do those best practices when managing a team. We still need to schedule time to celebrate wins on a weekly basis. We still need to do IFMs or one-on-ones. We still need to have daily huddles or sales meetings. And I think sometimes managers are skipping those steps just because they are busy. We get it. We know that they are. That's real, but we still got to do the best practices that we did when we were in the office. We can't skip that. Jim, what were you going to add?
Well, the more you use video, the more you get comfortable with it. And Kurt, to your point of building in some little bit of process or some tools that you can use to establish rapport. I mean, I'm 5 sessions into a 6-session training sequence with one of our clients. There are 16 people, managers and salespeople, on each of those sessions. And you know how many of those 16 I've met in person? Yeah, you know the answer. It's 0. Wow. Okay, but we have a good rapport developing because we do this every week it's going to be 6 weeks straight. We've built in interactive elements. We're having fun. People are getting to know each other. They're not in the same city by any stretch of the imagination. But if you think about how to use video, how to create interaction and put some tools and pieces in there, it really can allow you to develop a kind of camaraderie or relationship you may not have had otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts on this. One is what we're missing by not being in the office is the pop in, how you doing? Can I grab you for 5 minutes? That's what we're missing. Now everything is a calendar invite with a link to jump on a video. And because Microsoft and Apple don't make it easy to schedule a 15-minute meeting, everything is a 30-minute meeting, when sometimes really all you need is 5 or 10 minutes. And that's a thing, right? And so you want to make sure, I think, that you allow for the casual conversations, and that when you check in with people. One of the most important KPIs we might measure right now is increase your talk time. Like, are you just talking to people? Like, how are you? Not like how much do you have pending, but how are you? Like, how's your day? What are you doing this weekend? Just like we did when we all worked in the office. And we'll talk about culture a little bit more in a second. But I think that's a big part of managing that remote sales team is meeting with them. The other thing is, to Kurt's point on Kahoot, there's a lot of really cool technology out there right now to use to work virtually. If you need help on that, I would recommend that you reach out to one of the CSS consultants, and we can tell you all the things that we're using. We'd love to share ideas, but there's a lot of really good ones out there that we can help with.
Yeah, Matt, to that point, you can use technology to increase talk time. With chat features and Teams and all of those things, you can still have those pop-in conversations without it having to be a scheduled 30-minute meeting.
And I think that's important. That's the part I think that people are going to miss out on if you need to become a remote sales manager sometimes. I mean, that's the world we're living in. And by the way, maybe it doesn't go back. Kurt, you brought up the training. We have a survey that just came back where we surveyed clients and non-clients, people in the sales industry. 92% of salespeople said that they think continuing sales training and development is extremely important. I mean, that's a ton, and the results of that survey will be out in just a couple of weeks. But 92% of current salespeople, and a lot of these salespeople were veteran salespeople. So they know everything isn't exactly true.
That's why.
Yeah. So,
I'd like to add one more thing. When I schedule things in my Outlook calendar, I code all my calls and virtual meetings in yellow. And I do that for a reason, because I can look at my calendar and I know that there's a balancing act that I need to keep in mind when I'm scheduling. And if I get overscheduled, I don't have enough time in between meetings to do the proper follow-up and the proper necessary. So if you don't do that, it's in Outlook, right? I think the code yellow is for phone call. I just started using it years ago, and it really helps me balance my schedule, because that overscheduling is an easy thing to do in this virtual world.
Yeah, good calendar audit's always important, but you're right. I love the color coding, and I think that's one of the secrets to good time management and effective time management would be color coding. All right, so there's a term that I heard recently. I'd never heard it before. I just heard it for the very first time, called Zoom along. And what it really means, it's an infield day, a virtual infield day, where your manager comes along with you on a Zoom call or a Teams call. Maybe it'd be called Team Along. I don't know. What do you guys think of that? Is that effective? I mean, should you do that? What do you think?
I love it. I love it. And I love the term too. I didn't know the term, but I've been talking to my managers that I work with about this, because it's hard. It's always been hard to get out and go on meetings, right? So think about it. Your sellers are doing virtual needs analysis meetings or virtual proposals. When you do your focus meeting or one-on-one, find out when those are and just say, hey, I want to come along. I want to be there. And it's actually okay to tell the client that you're there and do the same thing that you would do in field. I think it's actually okay to record it and let the client know, hey, I'm going to record this, or we're going to record this because I'm going to give Stephanie coaching afterwards and help her continue to improve and get better at her craft. And I think it's more than acceptable, and I think it's a huge missed opportunity if we're not fitting this type of activity into our schedules. And there's also this, remember too, use the feedback coaching, right? 5 things that went well, 1 thing that might have been better, and 1 thing I wish I would have seen. Keep that in mind too as you're giving feedback on these.
Right, the coaching doesn't change, just the format of how it's delivered changes.
Yes.
Yeah, so one of the problems we've always had when it comes to coaching is people confusing joint sales calls where you're 2 people selling, okay, with coaching, right? We've been fighting that for years, as we all know. And what is the nature of a coaching call? And I think you want to pay special attention to that when you're doing Zoom alongs or, whatever method you're using for your virtual call. When you have a call with a client, and we have a tendency on these video and even audio calls to get down to business more quickly, because I didn't spend 45 minutes driving there. We didn't talk about the traffic. what the weather is, how the Cowboys do, all that sort of stuff. All right. So, yeah, right. But we have a tendency to get down to business more quickly. And so it would be important for the manager to do the right contracting in advance with the salesperson and with the client about what their role is. And I think it would behoove the manager to have some role there, so it doesn't seem strange like they're eavesdropping, right? You can make that whole thing feel natural. But I mean, the big thing is, I talk to managers, I go on 8 calls, 9 calls a week. So tell me a little bit about this. When you listen to it, they are big deals where the salesperson asks them to go along and close, to help close. And that's legitimate activity, but it's not coaching.
Right. It's not that. Stephanie, what were you going to say?
Yeah, mine's a really short answer. Do them. Don't skip it.
Right.
Yeah, because
I think it's more important now than it's ever been. Yeah. Sorry, Jim, what?
The barrier to doing a coaching call is lower than ever now.
Yeah, it is.
I did recently I did a simulation, a 4A needs analysis simulation with my clients, and I recorded the sessions. I gave the sellers coaching, and then I also had a meeting with the managers, and we watched the videos together, kind of like a football team might watch the game films. And we talked about coaching, and then they watched the films with the videos with their sellers, and it was extremely impactful and very successful.
From time to time, I have salespeople that I work with that they're recording their calls. And that's fine. But then they'll send them to me and they'll say, "Hey, can you review this for me?" And I actually kind of like it. It's nice. And by the way, here's a pro tip, right? If you're gonna review those, you can watch them back in 2 times the speed. So you can still hear everything, and you can slow it down if you want to hear, but you can do a 30-minute meeting in 15 minutes, and it's really good. So I'd recommend that. All right, let's move on, because we got 2 more topics that I want to cover in the next 5 minutes or so. 1, talent bank. What are your thoughts on talent bank these days?
Yeah.
Funny, Matt, if I could jump in here, when we got into 2020 and people made cuts in their business, and some people reduced the size of their sales team, and they canceled hiring plans. Managers are like, I don't really need to pay much attention. We're not going to be hiring anybody in the foreseeable future. Okay. And then what happened over the next 2 or 3 months is people left for various reasons, like maybe, a spouse lost a job, they had to move to another city, there were extenuating circumstances, and suddenly they had openings. And so it's like, whoa, I got to take a look at who's in the talent bag. The other thing is, if you had 15 people on your sales staff before, and now you have 12 because you made 3 cuts, you can't afford to have anybody who's not talented and a weak performer, because it hurts you disproportionately.
Right. Yeah.
Or open positions in that case, Jim. If you have fewer salespeople, an open position hurts you more. It's always hurt, and it's always expensive, but you feel it more if you have fewer people on the team.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's important just to remind managers, avoid the mistake of saying, well, we're not hiring, so I'm not going to build my talent bank or interview. That's the best time to do it. The other thing is, our clients use the OSTI to get a real solid handle on talents. I think there's some talent. I believe there are talented people who are out there that were cut from previous organizations that have really high levels of talent that maybe didn't reach their full potential in another quasi-dysfunctional organization that could be great add-ons. Think of like the New England Patriots. Those guys bring talented players in every week for trials. Keep doing that.
Yeah, I mean, the talent bank suggests that you don't have any openings. You're just recruiting to put people in your talent bank. You don't want to have to recruit when you have the opening. It's much easier, and it's much more enjoyable actually to be talking to people when you don't have an opening. I mean, wouldn't it be great? I would say, wouldn't it be great, like if you found someone that you just thought was so talented, so perfect, great experience, great fit, great everything. You don't have room for them on your team, and you're like, how can I get this person in here? That's awesome. Yeah. That's what you want.
Well, and you make better decisions too if you have a talent bank. You don't hold on to that underperformer as long as you may have before. It's easier to make moves if you have a talent bank. You think about it differently.
Absolutely.
A lot of managers thought it was going to be very easy to find talent because of downsizing. I'm finding a lot of managers are still having a tough time finding highly talented people, even in this environment where plenty of people are out of work.
So last topic. Every week on this broadcast, we talk about the importance of culture and employee engagement to help drive performance. The many businesses that we all interact with on a regular basis have built a culture around being in an office together versus what they're dealing with now, which is a virtual culture. Comments, thoughts? I mean, we think it's so important, full disclosure, that we started up a company called Up Your Culture to help deal with this. But what do you guys think about this?
I think culture, sometimes like training gets pushed down the list as well. Focusing on culture and building culture, that happens in a normal, sales environment. I think it's getting pushed down the list even more now because of this virtual thing. But I tell you, to me, it should be flipped. It should be at the top of the list and talk about things like mission, people development, valued voice, all those important things that kind of play into culture. Building your culture now is way, way more important than ever.
Yeah, you have to be way more intentional about making it happen now than we did before. It's never been easy to to build a culture. You had to think about it even when you were in an office together, but now you have to be intentional. You have to have a plan to make that happen. You can't just assume it's going to.
Right.
Just, for all of the obvious reasons.
Yeah, and we need to have a strong culture. Helps people problem solve through unfamiliar situations. And how many of those have we faced this year? I mean, uncertainty has been the biggest enemy that we've been fighting, working with clients and working inside our organizations. When there's a strong culture, they know the purpose of what you're trying to get accomplished. You may not have all the answers, but people are more resourceful and contribute better ideas. And you work together to be able to address some of these challenges, many of which we've never seen before.
Yeah, we had a couple of business leaders on this broadcast a few weeks ago, and both of them, when they talk about the success that they've had either in their current business or previous businesses that they've run, they both pointed, without prompting, they both pointed to the way that they improve performance is by making sure that they have the right people and that they work really, really hard on the culture piece. And I just think it's different now with having remote workforces. I think the culture piece isn't something that happens without it being intentional. I think it has to be intentional for it to happen.
Yeah.
All right, so we're coming up on time. I know we could. This is kind of like being at staff meeting and we get together and we all talk. So. Kurt, Stephanie, Jim, thank you so much. There were lots of people on and commenting. Everyone, please feel free to reach out to us. All of us are on LinkedIn. We're easy to get a hold of. Our producer Shay will put up all of our LinkedIn addresses at the bottom so that you can see all that. But don't forget, so that's one way to get a hold of us. Another thing that you need to do is you need to make sure you go over to YouTube and you subscribe to our channel, the Improving Sales Performance channel. Please subscribe and then also click the button so that you get notified, because we do these live casts every single week. And every week it's a topic on how to improve performance, right? It's the Improving Sales Performance live cast. And with that, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Kurt, Stephanie, and Jim for being our guests, and we'll see you next week.